Welcome to this edition of In-Depth Alaska. I'm Tracy Sinclair. On Tuesday, January 28th, an F-35 crashed on the flight line at Eielson Air Force Base. Though there is limited information about the crash or the pilot, we wanted to speak with someone with experience in fighter jets. Anthony A.B. Bourke is an experienced F-16 fighter pilot who accumulated more than 27 hours of flight time. John Thompson sat down with A.B. to talk about training and how a pilot might prepare for an emergency. Here's an extended version of that conversation.
As a pilot, of a jet pilot, how do you train for something like this in terms of an ejection? Because it's not like you can go up and do it in real time to get experience.
Yeah, I will say this, from the day you enter, I'm Air Force, so I'll speak only for the Air Force. And of course, the F-35 that had the accident was also Air Force. But from the day, your first day of what we call undergraduate pilot training, I remember very clearly showing up with my class of 20 of us at 5 a.m., nervous in our flight suits. We're all seated at our tables. Our flight commander comes in, and the first thing he does is he looks at me and he says, and it could have been anyone. It happened to be me. Lieutenant Bourke, you're flying a T-37. You've just taken off. You've got an engine overheat light on your number 2 engine. What are you going to do? And so emergency procedures are constantly grilled into you, both in an academic environment, in a simulator environment, and when you're flying the airplane. And in many cases like that one, as you can imagine, your job is actually to stand up at attention and say, sir, yes, sir. I've got a right engine overheat light on takeoff. I'm going to maintain aircraft control. I'm going to analyze the situation and take appropriate action. My right engine's overheating. Do I see smoke coming out of the airplane? No, no smoke. Okay, I'm going to keep flying away from the ground. I'm going to maintain aircraft control. Once I'm at a safe altitude, I'm going to open my checklist, my emergency procedure checklist, to the page that says engine overheat in flight. It's going to instruct me to take the following steps. And you'll go through that with everybody staring at you and your instructor breathing down your throat again and again and again. So when I think about this pilot, and I'll give you some other examples, in the F-16, which is a single engine airplane, you have what we call CAPS, critical action procedures, because it's single engine. There are 6 or 7 procedures that you must know by memory. And every week before anybody's allowed to fly, they have to fill out the CAPS sheet. And those are the memory items that you must know, critical action procedures. So for example, engine failure on takeoff. I still remember to this day. I haven't flown an F-16 in really 20 years, but those procedures are zoom, get the aircraft away from the ground, stores jettison, get all the drag off of it, eject. And I see your pilot up in Eielson, although I know very little about his situation. Something obviously went terribly wrong with that airplane. And I feel confident that, he went through the training. It was automatic for him. He said, I've got this problem. And then he went through his steps. Okay, try to maintain aircraft control, analyze the situation, take appropriate action, and continue to follow your next steps. Well, at some point he said, okay, I've tried A to get the airplane flying. That's not working. I've tried B to keep the airplane flying. That's not working. I'm very close to the ground. It's time to eject. Whammo. And he's out of there. And I'm so grateful for him that he did eject at a very low altitude.
Wow. Yes. I mean, that was so, gosh, just it's beat into you there academically and then in real time. So you're getting all the experience that way. Have you ever been in that, had an experience where you were pretty close to ejecting or having to eject?
I have. I've had a wingman eject, out over the California desert. He over G'd. He pulled too many G's, blacked out, and when he woke up, he perceived that he was going straight down at the ground at 650 miles an hour and didn't think he could recover, and he ejected. And I've been around other situations that where ejection seemed imminent. Fortunately, it didn't have to happen.
That's
But
good.
you're mentally thinking 3 steps ahead. Geez, I am going to try A, and I am going to try B, and I am going to try C. And by the way, if those 3 things don't work, I know what step D needs to be. And that's a lot easier in an aircraft that's flying in control. At least from what I saw in the brief video on, I think it was on YouTube and on your station, It didn't look like that airplane was in control. So, at least in the F-16, the minimum altitude to eject was at 2,000 feet AGL above ground level if you were in an out of control situation. So
Now,
he's
go
clearly
ahead.
well below that.
Wow. Could you talk a little bit about, so the planes you were flying and then what these F-35s now are very different, right? In terms of what the pilot is actually doing. You're working with a lot more computers now than you were back when you were flying these jets.
Well, the F-35 is one of the most advanced jets in the world. I started my career in the F-4 Phantom, which was kind of a Vietnam era jet. That's considered a I'm losing all my military talk, but it's a level 3 fighter jet. The F-16 was a third generation fighter jet. The F-16 was considered a 4th generation fighter jet. We got fly-by-wire. We had heads-up displays. We had digital radars. We had much improved avionics, incredible performance improvements. And then even one step beyond that is now what we call generation or 5th generation fighter jets like the F-35 and the F-22. And now we think China is producing some fifth generation fighter jets as well. And, the quantum leap there is, I think in flight control systems for sure, they have something called vectored thrust, which we did not have. The avionics are remarkable. These people are flying these pilots are flying with a helmet mounted sight. Their avionics are highly, highly advanced compared to what we had. And, everything is, you're right, so much more computerized, so much more technologically advanced. It's an unbelievable airplane.
Well, you think the training remains the same in terms of the books and just kind of knowing these guys know exactly when there is an issue, kind of like you said, going through the steps, right?
I have no doubt that the training has not changed in substance. The Air Force way is written in blood. And, we are an organization that constantly is trying to get just a little bit better every day. But there's no doubt in my mind that pilot was extremely well trained. He was, qualified to fly that airplane. He knew exactly what he was doing. And if he ejected from it, he did it for all the right reasons.
Well, Anthony, thank you. I kind of, for my purposes, I'm there. I'm good. Is there anything else that you would like to add or think that the general public should know in terms of the mindset of this pilot?
Oh, geez. The only thing I'd add is I have such respect for these fighter pilots. They are incredibly hardworking. They're bright. They're able. Their heads and their hearts are in the right place. And I'm just so happy that this pilot was not injured, that no one near the base was injured. And, obviously we lost a very valuable asset, but we think our pilots' lives are more important than those assets. And I'm sure that the Air Force will conduct a very in-depth safety investigation to determine, what happened, what was the cause, what were the root causes, anything we need to do better or differently moving forward. Learn from it and keep going, because that's an expensive piece of equipment, and we certainly don't want that to happen again.
Thank you to our guest, Anthony Bourke, and thank you for listening to In Depth Alaska. Please like and subscribe to this podcast.